Hmm. When you make content online, are you a screen name personality or a character personality? Hello, Controversy here, and my friend Animat was recently caught up in a little bit of controversy over his, let's call them extreme opinions on Sony Pictures Animation. Um, if you don't know, there's this video called The Problem with Animat, and it basically analyzes how he has these really extreme opinions on Sony Pictures Animation and how everyone that works at Sony should be fired and the studio should shut down and stuff like that. And when I watched the video, it kind of got me asking this big question. Is Animat a screen name personality or a character personality? What do I mean by that? Well, when it comes to making online content, you can be either a screen name or a character. When you're a screen name, it's basically you just being you in different situations and just giving your real thoughts on it. I mean, I'm not going scoutfly, no one's real on the internet. No, I mean, no one's 100% real online. But I mean, you're just giving your honest thoughts and opinions. You're taking people where they want to go and just telling the story and not trying to play things up and exaggerate. It's just you being you. An example of some guys like this is Lazy Game Reviews. He doesn't have like these crazy antics and effects and whatnot. No, it's just a guy playing old DOS games and old PC games and sometimes doing some restoration of old hardware and just giving his honest thoughts and opinions on it. Sometimes even just goes to thrift stores and see if he can find things. And he doesn't plant any of that. No, he just finds things at thrift stores. And I found things at thrift stores, so it's real. Another example is Pat and Ian on the Completely Unnecessary podcast. I mean, it's just two guys giving their honest thoughts and opinions on video games and various different topics. A lot of your vloggers are screen name personalities, and they're not playing up a show. They're not going crazy. They're not writing scripts and whatnot. No, they're just taking their camera with them and sharing the experience with you. And that's what screen names are. It's basically people just being themselves. On the other hand, you got characters, which are personas and personalities that are expertly crafted in the sheer meaning to entertain. And it's not real, it's not realistic. These thoughts and opinions and reactions do not necessarily reflect the thoughts and opinions of the guys making them. They're going to have crazy backstories. They're going to have other characters that they interact with. They're going to have crazy universes that they live in that are very much like our universe, but not necessarily. And everything that they do and say is basically played up and exaggerated for entertainment purposes. Um, Classic example of this is the angry video game nerd. And while I'm sure James doesn't actually like the games that he's playing, I mean, he doesn't have the crazy freakouts that he does whenever he plays these games. It's all done for comedy. He doesn't actually know Bugs Bunny. He didn't actually kill Bugs Bunny. He doesn't have the crazy bowel problems that the nerd has. And he doesn't like destroy the games constantly whenever he gets the nerd rage. No, he does it all for fun. It's meant to be entertaining and it's meant to be funny. Another example is Eye of Saul. While I'm sure that most of the opinions that she expresses are her actual opinions, what really ends up happening is that she has these crazy backstories. There's an overarching story going on with her reviews. She has these crazy effects that happen and crazy exaggerations that happen, and none of this actually happens in real life. It's all meant to be funny. Classic example from the early days of YouTube is Fred Figglehorn from the Fred channel. And yeah, maybe there are some kids that have some aspects of Fred. I mean, the actual Fred character wasn't actually a chipmunk 5-year old that had access to the internet and editing software that stole the Fred channel from some other guy that has an alcoholic mother and has a crush on this Judy that is constantly beaten up by Kevin and whatnot. No, it was all a character and an act played by Lucas Cruikshank. So that's the primary difference between screen name personalities and character personalities. But the problem becomes when it's not nearly as clear. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at the Alpha J show, for example. Alpha J, it's just a guy giving his honest thoughts and opinions on cartoons in a very calm and analytical manner, and I have no problem believing that this is actually what he thinks and his actual beliefs on it and his actual uncut reactions to it. I mean, he writes scripts and whatnot, but all the emphasis, it's all based off of his real life reactions to it. The only difference, though, and problem that you kind of run into is that he refers to himself as a panda. And when he shows up on screen, he is a cartoon panda. So that kind of means that he's a character, even though he doesn't do all the things that characters do. He doesn't really do anything that characters do except for referring to himself as a panda. Conversely, you got Austin from Game Theory, where he doesn't have a crazy name like Dr. Science or The Science Gamer or anything like that. No, it's just Austin. It doesn't have like these overarching stories and characters and different people that he interacts with and whatnot. No, it's just him talking about the science of various different video games. And sometimes he even gets a little IRL where he talks about how he has a newborn that doesn't let him sleep at night. So it comes off as just very much being a screen name. The only thing, though, is that he is constantly excited and constantly angry. And I highly doubt that Austin IRL is constantly excited and constantly angry. And you can tell in the outtakes that he does this specifically for entertainment purposes, even though there's no character that he is assigning to it. It's just him being him. So this is where we come into the problem with Animat. Now, Animat most of the time presents himself as like a screen name. His two primary shows are Animat Reviews and Animation Look Back. And Animat Reviews, most of the time he gives his just plain honest thoughts on it and doesn't get too crazy, and his reactions match that of what you would expect someone to react to. Even when he's reviewing really bad movies like Walking with Dinosaurs, it's just like, oh, come on, guys. The voice acting and characters are so annoying. Just shut up and let me experience the brilliantly, beautifully crafted animated backgrounds that the animator spent so much time working on. And in his animation look back videos, it's him just giving history and facts and trying to be relatively entertaining with the editing and whatnot, but it's very calm and very natural, I guess you would say. It doesn't come off as he's trying to put on a show and do an act. And that's the same can be said for most of his videos, except for when you talk about Sony. When he talks about Sony, he gets excited and angry and says outlandish, crazy things like this studio should be shut down and everyone that works for Sony should be fired. And it's like, that's a little extreme. And I've talked to Matt Brune outside of the Animat persona on this because I'm friends with Animat. And what happens is that when you do bring up Sony, yeah, he doesn't like Sony Pictures Animation, but he doesn't give the crazy freakouts that he does. It's just him saying like, "Oh yeah, I don't like Sony at all. They suck, and they really shouldn't be making the movies that they do." And I do kind of wish that they'd at least be good, but we can't have that. So yeah, and that's where you get into the real problem with Animat is that you don't really know if he is a screen name or a character because most of the time he comes off as a screen name, but when he talks about Sony, it comes off as very much a character. And characters can get away with things that screen names can't. I mean, if the angry video game nerd were to play a game and he says, "Oh man, this game is so bad that the creator should be shoved up an elephant's butt after the elephant was force fed Wendy's chili," no one's going to think any of that. They're not going to call him crazy or whatnot because That's such a nerd thing to say. Everyone knows that's just an act. But when Animat says that everyone at Sony should be fired, it comes off as being earnest, and people say like, "Dude, calm down. It's just a cartoon. Don't go that crazy." And it's a fine line. He doesn't really know. We don't really know. No one really knows if Animat is being earnest or just playing it up for laughs. We don't know if he is a character or a screen name, and that's where we get the real problem with Animat. It's not that he has these extreme opinions on Sony, it's that we don't know if his extreme opinions on Sony are earnest or jokes. So, Animat Yoshi Player, if you guys want to come on my podcast and just talk it out and do it in a non-threatening and neutral platform, I welcome both of you to do it. Come on, let's have a nice conversation about this. But that's the real crux of the matter is that when you make online content, you got to kind of think, is this a screen name or a character? And you gotta think about what it means to be either a screen name or a character. And hopefully, going forward, anyone of you that watches this, anyone that's out there, ask yourself, am I a screen name or a character? This has been Cat the Controversy, signing off. And may God bless you.